Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles Lung. With me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
I'm doing swell, Charles. How are you?
I'm good. Are you ready to pitch a brand new televisual series for our viewers and myself to imagine as you say the words?
Actually, no, I'm not ready to pitch a brand new television series.
Ooh, what could that mean, folks?
Well, it means I'm pitching the season 2 because we're getting kind of far from Res Publica, and I promised a season 2.
Yes, you did.
And I'm afraid that if we go another episode without Res Publica, no one will care.
No one will care.
I'm starting to forget. Most importantly, I'm starting to forget the story.
Yeah.
You know, I write these notes and stuff, but most of it's in my head.
Yeah,
and
I do the same thing.
If we go another episode without doing it, I'm gonna forget. So
yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited to see what Res Publica has to do with season 2. I had a very wet mouth at the.
So I'm assuming you don't remember anything from what happens.
I know it was Roman Game of Thrones. Caesar wasn't in it, I don't believe, or he was in it at the very end, right?
Wasn't in it at the very end.
He wasn't? No.
Well, he's going to be at the very end of the entire show.
Oh, okay.
But not at the end of season 1.
Not at the end of season 1. Wasn't there a reveal at the end of season 1 that somebody was coming important? Maybe. I don't know.
The end of... So season 1 was the political journey of this guy named Tiberius Gracchus, if you forgot.
I know Tiberius. I love him.
It was him rising from, the sort of the noble class and then making his way into the political sector, but things didn't really work out for him at first, and so he, took a different route, and eventually, in his long-term efforts to try to reorganize and redistribute the land in Rome, the Senate kills him.
Yes.
And the episode 6, or 8, or whatever it ended with, it ends with him being murdered in a temple.
I remember this
by this gang of senators and this senatorial mob, and then by this guy named Cornelius Scipio Nasha, who's the Pontifex Maximus.
Ooh,
he goes in and he kills Tiberius and he dumps him in the Tiber.
Hence
that's
the
end of the end of the season.
Yeah.
Also, what happened in the show was there was a guy named Gaius Marius.
I was going to ask.
Gaius Marius.
There is a man fighting a big war, isn't there? And he's, or no, he didn't fight the big war. He did fight the big war. They lost. And the only way for him to get his soldiers out is to say that they would agree to a peace, and then he.
Well, that was actually Tiberius still.
Yeah. Okay.
Tiberius was also involved. Marius and a man named Aemilianus, who I'm probably pronouncing wrong, but Aemilianus and Marius came in like the second brigade that went to Spain, which was the place that Tiberius got kicked out of and had to barter for his troops' lives to get out. They went back, and so the season ended with them defeating the Numatians in Spain. Marius being this young sort of child of a noble, but from sort of a lesser family, and Aemilianus being the grand commander of the army, or the consul, as it's called, and being at the height of his military career.
Yeah. All right.
So that's it ends with that. That was the end of season 1. Tiberius dies. Marius is coming home from a good campaign. Aemilianus is at the absolute pinnacle, and it's kind of next is sort of retirement for him.
Yeah.
He's done now.
It's only downhill from here.
Well, no, it's not downhill. It's just now he can rest.
He's plateauing. All right.
He can settle into a calm senatorial lifestyle and just sort of ramp things down a little bit because he's a little tired.
Yeah.
Getting older.
Like Russell Crowe's character from Gladiator.
Not like that.
No, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes down.
That's how that movie ended?
Yeah, he had a very nice, relaxing ending with his wife and child who were still alive. And he definitely didn't give their dead feet a big kiss, and then a bunch of spit came off of his mouth.
Well, that movie is super relevant to this story because of the You know how in Gladiator, he has that thing where he comes back and his farm's been like, destroyed and his parents are dead. That's kind of what happens to Roman soldiers all the time in this period. When they come back, their farms are like basically ravaged, and they have to sell them off to someone to recoup any sort of money. And that's what started the land problem, is that the soldiers would leave for war, they'd come back, their farms suck because no one was taking care of it, or the bandits came in and messed it up at like the orders of some rich people.
And another similarity, another important similarity, they're both Rome. There's Rome in both of them.
Yeah, well, one's the Empire and one's the Republic. But anyway.
It's Rome. It's fine.
I haven't even gotten into the story yet.
No.
So, Season 2, Episode 1. We begin on a Spanish port on the edge of Spain, on like the Mediterranean side.
Ooh, nice.
Jugurtha, who you may remember is the son of a Numidian king, which is like northwestern Africa, but like not on the other side of Gibraltar, if that helps. So it's still in the Mediterranean Sea.
Okay.
He came and helped the Romans in Spain, and he was mentioned last season. So Jugurtha is there, and he's like this, very likable figure, very charismatic. You get someone like, a very charismatic actor to play him, someone like Pedro Pascal or Henry Cavill or somebody like that, just that type. Not Henry Cavill or Pedro Pascal, someone that actually fits the ethnicity of this person, but like sort of that charismatic energy.
You pull up a name off of Jake's man crush list, and you just pick one of them.
All right,
go for it.
Anyway, so Jugurtha's there. He's waving off the soldiers. He's handing some money to some of them because he wants them to like him. He's trying to buy the favor of Rome through like helping them militarily and with money. That's sort of his game.
Yeah.
And he hugs Gaius Gracchus. Gaius Gracchus. Do you remember him? He's the brother of Tiberius. Tiberius being the one who was just killed. So Gaius Gracchus was also in Spain. I don't know if I mentioned that last season. If I didn't, that was a mistake.
Let's just say you didn't, because
retroactively I'm adding him back in because that's where he was historically. And so he was in Spain with Marius and Aemilianus, and he learned of his brother's death in Spain. But here we're starting after his brother's death. So he hugs Gaius Gracchus and says like, "Oh, I'm sorry about your brother. I hope things go well in Rome." And Gaius is like, he's a little distraught, but he's like, "Yeah, okay, thanks, bye." He likes Jugurtha,
Yeah.
Everyone likes Jugurtha.
Everybody does.
Does the same with Marius. He's like, "It's great to see you, Marius. You're such a great warrior." He doesn't give, you can see the relationship's a little different between him and Marius. He sees Marius as a good soldier. He's not trying to bribe him off because Marius isn't the kind of guy that actually has any standing. And he says goodbye to Aemilianus and tries to bribe him. Aemilianus being this, philosophical, very intelligent, peak of his career. He has nothing he wants really.
Yeah.
He refuses the bribe, and he warns Jugurtha against using bribes as a way to make friends. He's like, it's you can't keep doing this. He's trying to warn him as a friend, and he gives him a letter of recommendation as well because Jugurtha helped them out.
Yeah.
So he gets a little warning to not use bribes, gets his letter of recommendation to give back to his father. Jugurtha, by the way, is the bastard son. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's his little chip on his shoulder. So they depart at the port. Jugurtha, we follow him. He goes back to Africa, and he goes home to find his father is very sick. And you can see, immediately the wheels start turning in his head. He's thinking, I need to figure out how I can get into this inheritance.
Yeah.
Back to Gaius Gracchus, where he's having a dream of his brother. This is... Okay, so yeah, he's having a dream of his dead brother, and his brother visits him and says, "However much you tried to defer your fate, nevertheless, you must die the same death that I did."
Oh,
so,
no.
That's not me adding something. This is something that Gaius Gracchus says that actually happened.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This repeating dream of his brother.
I was going to say.
And saying that he's going to die just like he did.
Yeah, that sounds like some ancient, Roman historian stuff someone would write down.
Well, see, it's reported that Gaius Gracchus said this all the time to crowds and stuff.
Oh.
He mentions this dream a lot.
Okay.
This repeating dream. Anyway, so just so you can get a little bit of an idea of Gaius Gracchus' personality. So Tiberius from last season, his older brother, was very gentle and soft-spoken.
Yes.
He was like a very kind and sweet person, but still firm and strong. Gaius, on the other hand, is like the wild younger brother. He's fiery, he's loud, he's boisterous, he's in your face,
He's probably drinking more than he should be.
Yeah, he's a big personality. He's fiery.
We should cast Andre the Giant to play him.
Maybe a little too big. So Gaius also is known as probably one of the best, maybe the second best orator in all Roman history. Cicero specifically points this out in his histories, that like Gaius is like he's the greatest talent of his generation when it comes to public speaking. Because of his sort of fiery personality.
And now,
so Gaius wakes up from this dream, right?
Yeah.
He's in this bunk bed back from Spain. He goes to Marius, and Marius sort of like talks him down. He's like, I'm sorry about your brother, but like, things will be different when you get back. You gotta not be so. You can't focus too much on your brother, because you don't want to end up like he did.
Yeah. Can't be such a bummer all the time.
But you don't want to test the Senate. The Senate has shown their power, and you don't want to deal with them. And we get this feeling that Marius sort of has this disrespect for the Senate in this conversation.
Yeah.
But he is still wary of their power.
He's smart. He knows that they're powerful. They mean business.
Yeah. Marius, by the way, I feel like I didn't mention this last season. Marius's family is part of this client network that's like it's like, imagine the family that's in charge of Rome, right? Like the biggest senatorial family that's in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Marius is like part of that clan, not through blood, but like through like their, essentially their corporation, but not really, because there's no corporations really.
They don't exist
but
yet.
Like he's like at the bottom, right?
Okay.
So they supported him indirectly monetarily. So he owes them some allegiance, but you can see that he doesn't really respect them at all.
Mm-hmm. He sees them as a means to an end rather than, a final step.
But he's also sort of shackled by them as well.
Okay.
So he doesn't like them.
Not a fan. All right, good to know.
So they arrive back in Rome, and Gaius is at the ports, is sort of shunned by the senators. These two in particular, Opimius and Drusus. They're going to become important later. So remember them.
And are these
Opimius
all characters from actual Roman history? Like,
Yeah. I sort of moved some of them around. Like, Drusus and Opimius probably weren't at the dock, but it makes sense story-wise to put them here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
To shit on them.
A little bit of historical fiction. Never hurt nobody.
So Marius, he goes back to Metelli and Scarsus. Metelli being the leader of this big family that I mentioned, this big corporation, and Scarsus being sort of like the behind the doors leader. So Metelli would be like the face, and Scarsus is like the guy that controls everything behind the doors. Scarsus is one of like the big in Roman history. He's one of the big like backdoors planners. He's like not some guy that gives speeches, but he's sort of like setting everything up, for other people. And in their company is also a young Crassus, not the Crassus you're thinking of.
Yeah, Crassus
like,
Clay.
No, that's Cassius Clay.
Yeah, that's what I said.
This Crassus is like, I think his name's Marcus Livius Crassus. He's known as the best orator in Roman history.
Okay.
He's like this young. And here he's going to be very young, probably like 16 or something like that. He's not the best orator in Roman history yet, but he's this like youthful talent. He's only here for set up for later. He's not important this season. So they get to him, and he's talking with them, and Marius wants to become a tribune. He's trying to help his political career, and they sort of reject him. And he's sort of disappointed about that, obviously.
Who wouldn't be? I'd be so
he needs
sad.
some political support, and the people that are supposed to be backing him, well, aren't backing him.
Imagine if Ted Cruz told you that he wasn't going to help you out. How sad would you be? So sad. So
I
sad.
wasn't expecting Ted Cruz to back me, but
Who were you expecting? Beto O'Rourke? Is it Beto or Beto? Beto.
Anyway, Gaius, meanwhile, he's on his way back to see his mom. He meets Flaccus, who you probably forgot is a friend of his brother's.
Mm-hmm.
He was sort of backing Tiberius, but he wasn't one of the people killed in the... Like, he wasn't at the place when... at the temple when everyone died.
Yeah. Made it out.
Maybe he sort of feels bad about it, like that he wasn't there. And he's trying to back a bill to retroactively legalize his brother's re-election.
Okay.
So he wants to legalize what Tiberius was doing as a way to attack the people that killed him legally. Because, you know, there's no, like, grandfathered in Rome.
Yeah.
You can pass a law tomorrow that makes what you did yesterday illegal, and we can arrest you for it.
Okay. That's odd, but that's interesting.
I mean, it's just the way it was. So, Gaius is he's a little hesitant about this, and he declines first because he's afraid about ending up like his brother. You know, from the dream and his conversation with Marius, he's scared that he might, die like his brother.
Die.
So he goes to talk to his mom, and she tries to console her. But like while he's trying to do this, he continually gets pestered by this like crowd outside about his brothers, and he's like getting annoyed and more annoyed throughout the episode. Mm-hmm. And it's finally going to end with a big speech that he goes outside and he finally defends his brother in a big amazing speech. When we write this, it's going to be epic.
We're going to be
amazing.
We're going to be in the writer's room for weeks crafting this perfect, beautiful speech.
It's great. It's going to bring people to tears.
Yeah.
This is one of his most famous speeches where he defends his brother and openly supports the bill.
Maybe we should get
that's big.
We should get better writers in to help us.
Yeah, probably get better people. Probably for the whole show.
Yeah.
We'll have him rewrite everything.
Yeah. That's a good
maybe
idea.
Maybe even change the whole theme. Get rid of Rome. Put in something else. I don't know.
Ancient China.
Make it a comedy.
Make it a comedy.
Sitcom.
We'll send in the first draft of the script. It'll be written in crayon, and there's no staples. They don't let us have staples, so we just have to punch a hole and then tie it with yarn, like you did in second grade. And then the real writers, they get that and then they work it out from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how TV works, right?
Mm-hmm. So, episode 2, Flaccus is on the cusp of a consulship. So, Flaccus, despite, backing Tiberius, he's on, he's reaching the peak of his career. Consulship being, essentially the presidency, if you don't remember last time we talked about this. It's, the highest thing you can get, and you're limited to one consulship. You are limited, but you can get around it like Aemilianus did multiple times. You remember last season, he had 4 of them.
Yeah, he had a bunch.
They make an exception.
That's why they were so mad at him. That's why they killed him in that temple.
No, they liked Aemilianus. They didn't kill in the temple. Everyone liked Aemilianus.
Oh, yeah, sorry, not Aemilianus.
Tiberius is who they killed the temple.
Yeah.
He got elected to the as a tribune multiple times.
That's
different.
Yeah.
A tribune is like being Speaker of the House, kind of. Also limited to 1 term. Mm-hmm. The difference between those two is that the Senate approved Aemilianus's re-election multiple times. They did not approve of Tiberius.
Yeah.
So it's all about the Senate. They want to keep their power as the top dogs. That's what the whole That's what the whole show is about. The Senate trying to keep the power. That's what the whole fall of Roman Republic is. So Flaccus is on the cusp of the consulship, and he tells Gaius of his plans to give all Italians citizenship. Very controversial. All Italians are given citizenship. That completely changes the scheme of voting, which is only limited to Roman citizens, so people that live in the city of Rome. Mm-hmm. It would. Funny enough, it only doubles the size of the voters.
Huh.
Isn't that hilarious?
That
so many
is
people
pretty
live in
hilarious.
Rome, that all of Italy is only like double or triple.
Yeah.
It's really not that many more people. But it also means that like the Senate's power gets diluted because now they got to replace, like there's new senators coming in from like the Italians or whatever. Right? So
From Naples.
the Senate does not support this. Also, basic Roman citizens don't support this because that means their vote means less, right?
Yeah.
And when I say Italians, it's like, just the Italian peninsula, Sardinia and Sicily. And not even the top of the Italian peninsula, like where like Milan is and Venice. That's not part of this. It's kind of like just where it juts out.
Yeah. The boot's been cut in half.
It's just not like the part with the Alps.
Yeah.
It's not the Brussels sprout, like the treetop,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying here.
I don't either, but I get it. You think all Italians don't deserve to vote. That's what you're saying. That's your
That's
opinion.
exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
Only Roman citizens
Yeah, exactly.
can vote. Yeah. So Gaius hears this, and he also, he wants to support this as well because he sees this as a way to curb the Senate's power, and he tries to run as tribune. And while he's doing this, all of a sudden, Metelli and Scarsus are like, "Hey, Marius, we actually do want you to run for tribune." He's all excited, and he's like, "Oh, they actually want to support me."
Yeah.
And the election comes around, and Marius wins with the support of Scarsus and Metelli. So, like, the big, senatorial clan comes together to get him elected to defeat Gaius,
who is a loud, boisterous dick.
Yeah, well, he's not really a dick. He's just this, fiery public speaker who's got, this dead brother chip on his shoulder.
He's real sad about it.
So they defeat him, and Marius, after winning it, realizes that it was all, like, they didn't want him to win. They just wanted Gaius to lose. They wanted Gaius Gracchus to lose. They didn't want Marius to win.
Yeah.
This is confusing to me in my head because Gaius' name is Gaius, and Marius' first name is also Gaius.
That is very
It's
confusing.
Gaius Marius and Gaius Gracchus. Anyway, maybe they can bond over that.
Yeah, they can hang out.
A really weird joke. But
There'll be a scene on election night after the results have come in, where Gaius will be at a bar, and Marius, having won, will like kind of feel dejected and sad because he knows that he only won because he was the easiest person to pick for the Senate. So maybe he'll go to a bar too, and they'll just both meet at the bar and sit across from each other and be like, "Huh, we both have the same first name."
well, he could, they know that because they've worked together.
And then
in the military.
they kiss, and that's the end of that scene.
We could have like a little sweet scene where like Marius is leaving and he's like, he says something like the wrong Gaius won and leaves.
Yes, that's good.
So we get this feeling that he wanted Gracchus to win. This is historical fiction, by the way. This didn't happen.
Yes, that
Marius didn't give a shit.
He was so happy to win, he didn't even care about.
Marius was probably only vaguely aware of Gaius Gracchus. But anyway, I'm a big Marius fan, so making him more sentimental is all good for me.
You're a big Roman fan, I would say. You like Rome.
I just read a book recently.
Yeah.
About them, so that's all.
And-
So anyway, so his pride's hurt, Marius, because he's a little demotivated. He's now a tribune, but he doesn't really care that much.
Yeah.
And this kind of happens over the next few episodes, but just so I can just explain it now, he doesn't do a good job in his role, and he sort of makes enemies when he should be making friends.
Okay. As all good politicians do.
Conversely, Flaccus is elected as consul. So while Gaius Gracchus lost, his older brother's friend / now his mentor is now the highest role that can be.
Mm-hmm.
And he puts forward a bill to champion Italian rights.
Yeah.
It hits major pushback, but while he's giving this big speech to support the bill, and we get this feeling in the crowd that maybe that people will back it. Flaccus is like he's very fiery, and Gaius Gracchus even comes in and gives a big speech, and we get a feeling that people might actually vote Italian rights through.
Yeah.
And he might be able to convince the Senate. But that's when a messenger interrupts the speech. It brings word that their Greek allies, Massilia, which is like this city in southern France, probably around Nice, calls for aid against the Gallic tribes.
Ugh, the Gallics. The worst kind of Alex.
Gallic tribes. I mean Gallic. I wrote Gallic here because I was writing it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it out loud. Gallic is what I meant to say.
Okay.
Because France was called Gaul at one point.
It was, wasn't
Anyway,
it?
episode 3. Flaccus, he sets off for Gaul because he's got to go help those Greeks that live there.
The French invaders of French land.
At the docks, he's worried about Gaius Gracchus, so he's like, hey, I got you a quaestorship in Sardinia. Because he's worried about leaving him in Rome. He's worried that, the same fate that his brother might hit him without Flaccus's support.
Yeah. And he's been saying it's going to. Like, for the past 2 episodes.
Yeah, everyone's worried about Gaius. Even Gaius is worried about Gaius. He keeps having that dream over and over again.
Yeah, that's fucking worrying. I'd be worried.
A quaestorship is like, I'm probably saying it wrong, but who cares? It's like this, like, role below the consul. It's sort of like it's like an assistant, kinda.
Okay.
But, like, you have bigger duties.
That makes sense.
It's like how a cabinet member is to the president. If the consul is the president, it's a cabinet member.
I thought you said
so
oyster.
He's like in charge of all
I thought you said oyster
oyster.
ship, and I was like, so he got him a job fishing. That's nice. He's out. He could be a fisherman.
Yeah. Essentially, he's in charge of all of Sardinia, the big island.
All right.
And he's in charge of this because the bill falls through, the Italian rights bill, because Flaccus is, it gets tabled because they got to deal with the Greeks needing help.
Yeah.
And a revolt breaks out in an Italian city called like Flagella or something like that. I can't remember. And the Senate sends Opimius. Remember him? He's the guy that made fun of Gaius at the docks.
Oh, okay, that guy.
Episode.
I was trying to think back to season 1, but no, he was just one of the dicks at the docks.
Yeah, so Opimius is going. Drusus doesn't historically go, but we're going to send him as well, because Drusus was also one of the people at the docks making fun of Gaius, so let's send both of them. So they're going to go mess up this city that's revolting because they didn't get citizenship. And we got, Gaius Gracchus is heading off to Sardinia to make sure it's all okay there.
You were just lining up all those YouTube videos to be made after this show's been created. There are going to be a bunch of YouTubers making videos pointing out every single historical inaccuracy. They could be real pricks about it.
It's probably a lot of them. Read the book if you want to get everything factually, because I'm just sort of...
I don't know how to read, Jake.
Shooting from memory.
Yeah.
You don't know how to... Yeah,
I never learned.
Anyway, Gaius, he's reluctant to go because Opimius is in charge and he doesn't like him. But Flaccus says it's for the best. So Marius continues to fail at his duties and isolate his fellow politicians. That happens, this episode as well. In Africa, Jugurtha's father dies.
Oh no! Did he manage to get him into the will? Managed to get himself into the will?
There was no will. That's what they find out.
Oh
and
my
Jugurtha's
God.
like, what's going to happen? And so Jugurtha convinces the court and his legitimate brothers to send word to Rome to settle the succession. Because the problem isn't just that Jugurtha's a bastard and he wants everything. It's also that there's multiple sons and they don't really know who it's going to. There's not really this settled thing where it's like the oldest son gets everything.
Yeah.
In this period. That doesn't really exist. It's kind of like everything gets split up usually. So they're sending it to Rome to settle this succession, which kind of happens in this period of history. A lot of times you'll have you'll send stuff to the Roman Senate because they're like this third party that can debate over things, and they're well known as a superpower in the region. And when you do that as well, it gains favor with Rome because Rome's like, well, they trust us to settle their succession. So, they're good allies.
Let's do this.
Anyway, so they send that over. Gaius arrives in Sardinia to find an absolutely shit fucking situation. These men have no food, barely have any clothes. They're absolutely falling apart.
That's
this is a big episode. So they're forced to steal clothes and food for the men from the population. So we get the feeling that Gaius is Gaius Gracchus, he's reluctant to do this. He doesn't want to steal for his men, but it's the only way they're going to survive. So it's weird. You have like these soldiers that are supposed to be in charge of the territory, but they're stealing to stay alive.
Yeah.
You know,
That is
because the Senate's not sending them enough food and stuff.
That is an odd
And the
situation.
Senate is doing this on purpose, by the way, which he finds out while he's doing this. He's like, why? He's looking at the reports. He's like, why aren't they sending us more stuff? And he's like, hey, they stopped as soon as they put you in charge. And the men kind of don't like him because they see is like the whole reason they don't have enough food and stuff is because the Senate wants to ruin his career. They don't want Gaius Gracchus to ascend up the ranks like his brother did. So it's all just a big ploy to ruin Gaius Gracchus' life.
Yeah.
And so, meanwhile, Opmius is destroying the city of Fregellae for revolting because of the citizenship bill. This is known as pretty brutal because he doesn't just go in there and kill all the agitators and stuff. He goes in and he fucking levels the city and burns it, destroys everything. And it's known for being overly brutal, right? And even the Senate thinks it's too much.
Well, the Senate loves murder and burning things down.
Well, not when they didn't tell you to do it.
Yeah, that is true.
So, Gaius, the Senate's, we're going to be with the Senate, and they're going to be hearing about this, and they're like, we're mad about that, but we're not going to do anything about it. And they're also going to hear that Gaius is stealing stuff from citizens of Sardinia. They're going to be revolted by that, and they're going to send him, a cease and desist notice, stop right away, bad Gaius Gracchus, how terrible is he?
I would love a modern cease and desist notice being sent.
Yeah.
Hey,
cut it out.
You played the Batman 1989 theme in the very beginning of your episode of your podcast. We're gonna need you to take it down and give us all of the money that you made from it.
Yep.
Thanks. Joke's on you, Warner Brothers. We don't have any money.
Yeah, you can have 10% of nothing. Anyway,
yeah.
Gaius is told to stop. And this is an interesting part of his career because he does stop, right? But he's such a good public speaker that he manages to just give speeches that convince the population to give his men food and clothing.
Wow. That's
how good this guy is.
This dude is like Hitler levels of good at public speaking.
He's pretty impressive. I don't know how to write that speech. How do you convince people to give you food and clothing?
Yeah.
When you're the soldiers that are supposed to stop them from rebelling in case they do. But he's gonna do that. Maybe he's gonna appeal to the sense that they feel like the people feel like the Senate's screwing them over, and appeal to the sense that he wants to give them citizenship.
Okay.
So yeah, it's weird.
This is a big episode that is going on. We have to write a cool super speech.
There. Yeah.
But maybe we'll get some actual speech writers in to help us. That would be good. We got some ex-presidential speech writers to help us out.
That'd be cool.
Being a speech writer seems difficult.
Episode 4.
Episode 4.
Scarsus receives word that Gaius, what he did, and he's like, oh shit, this guy, he's really dangerous. Usually if someone did this, they would probably be like, oh my god, what a great public speaker, we should really promote him and get him high up in the Senate and put him in charge of stuff. Instead they're afraid of him, and so they extend his stay in Sardinia, which is very strange. That never happens. They extended another year. Normally he is able to get out so he can pursue other things. It's very clear they're doing this just to keep him out of Rome. And so Gaius is left with a choice, right? He's like, do I listen to the Senate and stay here for another year, hurting my chances? Right now I'm I've gained sort of a political, following. People like me now because they hear about my deeds here in Sardinia and how I'm convincing people. They hear about my speeches and stuff. This is the time for me to go back and, try to become a tribune.
Yeah.
The same role that his brother had.
Oh no.
Yeah. So he's like, this is the time for that, and they're extending his stay. So, it's hard for he has to make this decision, and he decides to come home against the Senate's orders, leaving his men in Sardinia, which is never happens.
Yeah,
you're not supposed to do that. He's essentially just abandoning his post.
Bad idea, probably. Unless it works out for him. Then it was a good idea. He should have done it.
You know,
Who knows?
I don't really know if it works out or not. It's kind of just, a thing.
Well, we don't know
Well, if
anything.
it works out, it doesn't work out. We'll say that.
It's history.
We will find out in a second, because I'll tell you. The Senate debates the fate of Numidia, so they got Jugurtha there, and then his brothers, like his half-brothers, and, they're debating, like, who do we give, most of Numidia to? And then Jugurtha's like, you guys remember me from helping you in Spain? Y'all love me. He's passing around bribes, so clearly he didn't take Aemilianus' advice from episode 1. He's bribing the Senate. This episode would be called, like, a city for sale or something like that.
Oh, that's a good title.
Jugurtha has a famous line where he says, like, Rome is a city for sale. Because he thinks he can just buy Rome with money. Which, in this case, he does.
Yeah. I mean, you can, for sure.
He convinces the Senate, and he gets them to split up the kingdom, and he gets most of it, and most of the best parts.
Good. Good for him.
Yep. Good for Jugurtha.
You should.
Got a cool name, too.
Yeah, he does. You should try and buy Rome right now, listeners. Go out.
What is it, like $10?
Go to Italy. Just start handing random Italian people money. Be like, you're mine now. Yeah. You're mine, and now no Italians can vote. Only Romans can vote. You should do that. Everyone who's listening to this.
And they'll say, Che?
Eh?
Non parlo inglese.
Giancarlo Esposito. That's what they'd say. That's Italian,
that's
right?
An actor. Anyway, Marius, still not doing great in his job. His term's ending. Mm-hmm. His whole life's gone downhill, right? Like, he was this military buff hero guy, and now he's a terrible tribune, and his term's over, and no one likes him.
And everyone hates him because he's a prick, and he was sad about being not everyone's first choice.
Yeah, I mean, he feels like, it's not like people are like, Marius, I want him to die. It's like, they're like, Marius is an idiot. Like, he's the kind of guy that, like, when he comes into the room, people stop talking about him.
He's the Ted Cruz
they pretend to like him.
Of ancient Rome, is what you're saying.
Well, no, not at all. That's a very mean comparison. He's just like a guy that, he has no motivation. That's why people, like, make fun of him, because he doesn't seem like he has any... He's not enjoying his life. He's ambitious. He wants to go high, but he's not really from a big family or anything. Mm-hmm. So he's not the guy that people. No one really. Everyone thinks he's just like he's nothing. There's nothing to this man. He's looking above.
Yeah.
The clouds. He doesn't. He's trying to reach for something he can't get to.
It's silly. Don't do that.
It's a silly man in their eyes. So Gaius returns. And he's met with cheering crowds, right? So the people love him, the popular people. Mm-hmm. They liked his brother. They like him because, he's not like a asshole, ruining everything for the people in Sardinia. And men from the Senate come up and they grab him. They drag him forward before the Senate to censure him. To, like, yell at him and be like, you're bad. You shouldn't have done what you did. You shouldn't have left your post.
Yeah, bad.
This is when Gaius Gracchus gives probably his most famous speech, where he talks about how he left the province better than he found it, unlike many of those in the Senate. So it's a popular practice amongst politicians when they're given a quaestorship or like sort of like a governorship. Mm-hmm. They'll essentially just abuse the region to make as much money as possible and like tax the crap out of it, so that they can have money when they go back to Rome to start a political career.
Yeah.
Like to advance their political career. And he didn't do that. And he sort of points out their, the faults in their morality, which, really makes him popular, right?
People love it. If you
remembered, there's two sort of factions developing. There's the Populari faction, there's the Optimate faction. Optimate being people that back the Senate, and Populari being people that back the popular people.
Yeah, the people.
Most of the people in Rome. People, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's very clear that he's a populare guy. He's all about the people.
Yeah.
It's questionable whether or not like he's doing this because he wants to help the people, or he sees this as his only way forward because he can't go the Optimate route. But in this show, we're gonna make it seem like he's the guy that wants to help the populares because it's more dramatic.
Yeah, and we need, we like Gaius. We want him to be somebody who's fighting for the people, right? So that's a good way of doing it.
Episode 5, Gaius runs for tribune with an overwhelming turnout. In fact, it's so crazy that people are literally on the rooftops because it's so overflowing. This is not, I'm not making this up. This is what they said in history. There's so many people. People are sitting on rooftops to vote for him. It's the biggest voter turnout in Roman history. And he wins overwhelmingly.
Good.
Despite massive senatorial pushback. And so he finally gets a tribune role, the role his brother had, It's very big, and he pushes a massive reform package that's said to completely change the entire makeup of the Republic, significantly curbing the Senate's power, putting different people that aren't senators in the courts. It changes everything about the Republic.
And that goes over
and he
well.
starts... it's hard for him to get this through. It's going to be a while for that package to get pushed through. There's a lot of pushback, right?
Of course.
But he also starts passing laws to prosecute the people who messed with his brother, right? It's everyone that killed his brother. This is when he starts using his newfound power to start taking people out. And essentially, he starts this big coalition with everyone that isn't in the Senate, essentially.
Yeah.
So he's got wealthy landowners. He's giving them stuff. He's got the people of Rome. He's got Italians behind him. He's got all these different factions, all these different people behind him. It's basically everyone versus the Senate. And he starts prosecuting the people that took out his brother. And so that's going well. We're getting a feeling that Gaius is on a run. He's in charge. He's grabbed the Senate, and he's I am the Senate.
He is the Senate. And then Yoda comes in.
Palpatine.
Yeah. He's got Rome by the balls.
Yep.
And they fucking
Meanwhile,
love it.
in Africa, Jugurtha is growing discontent with his kingdom. So he's got back, right? And he's I'm in charge now. Let's go. And he's happy and stuff. But he wanted everything, And so he's not happy with what he has. He sees what his brothers have, and he's not totally thrilled that he doesn't have everything. So we're getting a feeling that he might do something.
He's a bit greedy.
And Marius, he wanted it all. He wanted to be the king of Numidia, not the king of
southern
Numidia.
Yeah.
He's not happy.
Not a happy boy.
And also in this episode, Marius is just depressed. Just a sad boy,
Sad,
nothing's really going well
lonely,
for Marius.
Drunk.
He doesn't know what to do. He goes for a bunch of different elections. In this episode, he's going for a position called an aedileship. And at first, he puts up his himself for the senior aedileship because that's where he should go. At this point of his career, but he sees he's not going to win that, so he switches to a junior aedileship, which is severely limp. It's a huge embarrassment to do that, and he doesn't even win that. So it's it's like applying for a job you're way overqualified for and not getting it.
This guy is just that sad dog from the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. The one with the droopy face who's just
Yeah.
He's that's kind of what I'm imagining. I'm trying to
you get the feeling that he's this dude that's been screwed over. He should have this stuff, but people are you're an idiot, No one respects Marius despite what he's done, despite all of his military prowess and his sort of rank that he should have. He was a tribune. He didn't do a great job, but there's plenty of people that didn't do great jobs as tribunes.
Look at the Senate. It's terrible. They're all terrible.
Yeah. So he's regaining his motivation and his ambition in this, but he's losing his... He's lost his respect completely for the establishment because he feels like it's just screwing him over. Right. And so, episode 6, Gaius wins re-election. This is big.
Very big.
Because this is the position... Tribune, as you know, you can only become a tribune one time. You can only... Once you do it, there's a term limit. But And I think last time in season 1, I said that his brother won 3 times. His brother didn't win 3 times. He only won 2 times. So I was wrong with that.
Sorry.
Gaius wins re-election, but he wins it in a weird way. So essentially, they had the elections for tribunes. There's a couple tribunes, right? And so Flaccus comes back from, Greece, or not Greece, sorry, Massilia, which is like a Greek colony, right?
I was gonna say, it's
and
in
he
Spain.
wins election as a tribune, right? Mm-hmm. And which is odd because no one has ever been a consul and then become a tribune. It's like going from being president to being Speaker of the House the next year. You kind of retire after you're consul.
Yeah.
Or you you do something else. It's weird that he did that.
Write a book.
And so he wins election because he can, he's never been a tribune before. And there's a couple slots that are still open, which is extremely weird because usually all the slots are filled after an election, and he appoints Gaius to a spot.
Oh, okay.
So that's how he sort of weasels his way in without officially getting elected. So he sort of skirts the law, like the letter of the law. That's how he gets his second election. And also, Drusus wins election. Drusus being the guy who helped Opimius, destroy that city, and also made fun of Gaius for his brother dying at the docks. Drusus is very much an enemy of Gaius Gracchus.
And he's just like a dick who just shows up throughout the series just to be a prick. Seemingly.
Yeah, he's just a dick. He's behind the Senate, right? He sees we as the audience think he's a dick because he's mean to Gaius Gracchus, who's our hero, right? Mm-hmm. But Drusus, he thinks of himself as the guy that's the only thing stopping a man like Gaius Gracchus from destroying the Senate, which he believes that is the Republic, right?
Yeah.
That is everything that we stand for is the Senate. And so Drusus starts vetoing all of Gaius Gracchus's bills. So he's vetoing that big reform package. He's vetoing... he vetoes Gaius Gracchus's big colony sort of endeavor. So Gaius Gracchus wants to set up a bunch of colonies. He wants to set up all over Italy. Not like the way we think of colonies now, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's essentially a way of starting new cities.
Okay.
So they're setting up a bunch of new ones all over Italy, really. So it's not like they're going into different territories and setting up we're going to the Americas and setting up a colony.
Should go.
It's like their land. It's just we should have more cities. We should try to expand the population because it's not happening naturally. And so one of the places also is Carthage, which they destroyed. And essentially, Gaius Gracchus wants to rebuild the city of Carthage, but it's a Roman city from the top down.
Okay, cool.
And this is very popular, right? Because everyone's like, oh yeah, we get more cities, that's more trade, that's better. And it also gives land to people like veterans and stuff. So that's people like that.
Everybody likes that.
But Drusus undermines it by setting up an even bigger colony project. So Gaius Gracchus, I think he had 11 or 8 colonies, something like that. And Drusus doubles the number. It's that's my colony project.
Yeah, idiot. I have
and
better colonies than you.
Essentially, he's so he gets more support for his. And Gaius is, starts to lose the popular support because Drusus seems like he's the new popular leader. Mm-hmm. But Drusus's colonies are kind of like fronts, and Gaius's are real.
Yeah.
Which Gaius knows, but the people don't know.
Yeah, of course. And he can't have a speech.
So in this episode, we'll see Gaius. He's setting up his veteran colonies. Opimius is elected to consul, and Opimius, as you remember, big Gaius Gracchus hater.
Yeah, big Senate fan, Gaius Gracchus.
He cancels all of Gracchus's colonies. Because he has the veto power, as he has this extraordinary power as the consul that he can just say no, we're not going to do that. And he essentially declares war with the Gracchi and their popular supporters, everyone that considers themselves a Gracchi.
Yeah,
Gracchi.
Yeah, Gracchi, frat guy, but for Gracchus.
Gracchi. So this episode I think is fun because it starts off with Gaius Gracchus reaching his pinnacle. He has re-election. He is the man, and
he's the bomb diggity.
It ends with him now at war with the guy that's the consul, and the Senate is starting to try to take out his power. Episode 7. This is where shit hits the fan.
Oh,
Optimus
no.
provokes a riot by canceling the colonies and continually denouncing the Gracchi, and so like a like some supporters of Gaius Gracchus riot and damage some stuff, and Optimus crushes it in seconds. And we get a feeling that maybe the riot was like the people that are said to be Gracchi were actually just Optimus's people.
Yeah.
Who, like pretending to be Gracchi. Like the whole thing was staged. And the Senate gives him authority to do whatever is necessary to stamp out the Gracchi rebellion. This is exactly what happened to his brother.
Mm-hmm.
To Gaius Gracchus' brother. Tiberius Gracchus.
This is bad news bears for Gaius.
It is. And so Flaccus and Gaius are like holed up in a small house, and they're freaking out. Flaccus gets absolutely wasted, and like the next day wakes up and is like passing out fucking spears and stuff to the people like that they're with, like their supporters, because they're gonna defend themselves against Optimus and his like men that are coming in to take them out.
Yeah, but they're like fully kitted out Roman soldiers versus a bunch of like peasants,
bunch of dudes,
hungover peasants with spears. So it's not really gonna be much of a fight. It's gonna be a slaughter.
No, not at all. So yeah, so it's a slaughter. We get the feeling they sort of hold them off for a little bit because Gaius Gracchus has got some veterans that we're gonna get colonies under him that are sort of helping out. So like they're tough, they can handle it, but they don't have armor, so they'll eventually get defeated,
get stabbed.
And Flaccus, he dies, but he's like, in his last breath, he's like, Gaius, get out of here. And Gaius is running out into the night. And Gaius is running out. All he has with him is one of his slaves. And they're running away together, and they're like in this orchard, and Gaius is tired. He like looks at his slave, and he's like, I'm not gonna be able to make it. It's just they're gonna find me some way or another. And they're hearing word that the search parties, they're being motivated because Optimus is offering Gaius's head's weight in gold.
Oh,
which
okay.
Is, that's a lot of gold.
And Gaius is a big fucking head.
Yeah. So Gaius gives his slave a knife and tells him to just stab him in the neck and take the money. And so he has his slave kill him.
Oh.
And his slave goes and he fills Gaius's head up with lead and hands it to Optimus.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he's like, I want more money. Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime gets the head. He knows it's filled with lead, but he weighs it all the same, and he gives him the money in gold.
Nice.
He knows it, and he gives it anyway. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. Who cares?
That's pretty classy of him. I was kind of expecting him to just kill the slave.
It's a pretty cool scene.
Yeah.
And that's how the second season ends.
I like that. I like
I
that
know
a
you're
lot.
thinking, Charlie, like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I've been talking to you for an hour, and
You did say
I haven't
something.
even finished the show yet. Like, we just finished. You said we're gonna get to Caesar. We're an hour in.
Yeah, then no Caesar.
It was just season 2. What the hell? I guess we're gonna have to wait for season 3.
Yeah,
now.
I was gonna say this show has a lot. There's lots of twists and turns, and it doesn't seem like you're gonna be able to condense an entire third season into the final 5 minutes of the podcast, I'm afraid.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Honestly, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Am I really gonna pitch a third season for the show?
I think you are gonna pitch a third season for the show.
And here's the worst part is I don't think I can finish it in a third season. I think I'm gonna have to do a fourth or a fifth.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about Roman history. There's a lot of it. They should do a lot of things.
Yeah. When I originally wrote this pitch, I thought, season 2, right? I'll kill Gaius Gracchus off like 3 or 4 episodes in, and we can move on to the other stuff. But there's so much shit that happens.
Yeah, there's a lot
Gaius
going
Gracchus
on.
that I have to make his death the end of the second season. I love it though, because it's like we have our Ned Stark moment in the first season where it ends with Tiberius Gracchus dying, and then we have it again in the second season.
We have our
It's
Rob
like a
Stark
double.
moment. Yeah.
It's like it's our strikeout. We got 2 strikes on right now. You thought first that this guy was Tiberius Gracchus was our big protagonist. Nope, he's dead.
Nope.
You thought Gaius Gracchus was gonna be the big guy. You thought Rob Stark was gonna be
The hero
the
who
next
saves
dude.
the day.
Red wedding
No,
hit.
He's
there
dead.
we go.
Fuck you. Like you don't get anything. And man,
Hey, Marius is still kicking though.
yeah, and man, do I have bad news about Caesar. Like, there's this. Don't Google it. It doesn't end well though.
Guess what? Everyone dies because they get murdered. No one dies of old age.
No,
Except for Emilianus, he dies of old age.
except for
Somewhere in the middle of this.
Mark Antony died of old age, I think. No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
He just killed himself.
Yeah.
With Cleopatra.
Hey, at least
I
Cleopatra.
think Octavius dies of old age.
Okay, that's good.
He was also emperor, so no one was messing with him.
What about that? What was the name? You would know this. This has nothing to do with the show. This is a very good show, by the way. I enjoy it a lot. I would watch this. What was?
I'm afraid that it's confusing with all the names.
I mean, it is confusing, but that's part of it. Game of Thrones is confusing. You know, it's complicated. It's politics. I like politics, so I'm interested. It's fun. What was the name of that emperor who was like deformed? Is that Octavius?
No, Octavius is the first emperor.
Okay.
He's the guy that made the empire.
Yeah, but there,
Caesar's like nephew.
later, much later, there was an emperor who, you know, the entire royal family was slaughtered, and they didn't know, and they didn't have anyone to be emperor, and they just found this guy who was like a royal cousin or something.
I don't know.
He was hiding, you know, in the drapes while the slaughter was happening, and I think he was mute, and he was he had a hunchback and stuff, and so the guys who killed the entire royal family were like, hey, this guy can be the emperor now. Like, who gives a shit? Because
Emperor Claudius.
Yeah, Claudius. That I think that was his name, and he was a really good emperor because he was very smart. He was just not pretty.
He had a limp and a slight deafness due to sickness at a young age.
Yeah. But, all right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to Res Publica Season 2 on the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, and orator, Jacob Gloth. If you like...
Oh, I like that
title. I think it's good. I think I'm going to keep it. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat, and don't forget that we will be here next week, same time, same place, talking about a new show that I will be making up. Oh, I don't know what it's going to be
promises.
About. No clue what it's going to be about. I haven't thought about it even for a second. And that's usually when all of my worst ideas happen. So, we'll see. Yeah. Let's see what happens. Thank you all for listening, and have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.